The council vowed to avoid humans. One species ignored it, and Captain Daeho. Kim sat perfectly still in the hidden observation deck. The small room was dark except for the soft blue glow from the viewing screen. Through it, he watched the meeting of the Galactic Council without them knowing he was there. The EDF Resilience, his ship, floated silent and invisible just outside the massive space station where the council met. Human technology had come a long way in the past 50 years. Their cloaking systems were now good enough to hide from even the most advanced alien sensors. "We will now vote on Resolution 7293, said the tall, blue-skinned alien who led the meeting. The continuation of the non-contact policy with the human territories. Daeho leaned forward. This was what he had come to hear. One by one, the representatives of 27 different alien species raised their hands or tentacles or light sticks to vote. Every single one voted yes. "The vote is unanimous," the leader announced. "The policy remains in effect. All council species will continue to avoid contact with humans in human-controlled space." Daeho allowed himself a small smile. Good. This gave Earth more time. But then a new voice spoke up. "I wish to address the council." The camera view shifted to show a tall reptilian alien with red scales and yellow eyes. Admiral Tae-sung of the Miri. Daeho frowned. The Miri were known to be aggressive and proud. "The council recognizes Admiral Tae-sung," said the leader, though he didn't sound happy about it. "My fellow council members," Tae-sung began, his voice deep and harsh, "I must question our continued avoidance of the humans. Are we truly the most advanced civilizations in this part of the galaxy? Or are we cowards hiding from primitive apes who have barely left their home planet?" A nervous murmur spread through the council chamber. Daeho noticed how many of the representatives looked uncomfortable. They shifted in their seats and glanced at each other. An older alien with gray skin stood up. "The council, Elder Ju-won, wishes to respond," announced the leader. Ju-won looked directly at Tae-sung. "Admiral, we do not avoid the humans out of fear alone. We avoid them because of the incident. We all remember what happened when the Voltar attempted to establish dominance over human colonies 20 years ago." Tae-sung waved his clawed hand, dismissively. "Stories and exaggerations. The Voltar were already a declining power. Their failure proves nothing about human capabilities. The Voltar were the third most powerful military force in the Council before they encountered humans," Ju-won replied. His voice was calm but firm. "Now they exist only in our historical records." "Because they were weak," Tae-sung said. "The Miri are not weak." Another council member, a floating blob of purple gas contained in a transparent bubble, moved forward. "The humans have been advancing their technology at an alarming rate. Our observations suggest they may already rival some council species in certain areas." Tae-sung laughed, a harsh sound like rocks grinding together. "Observations from a safe distance. What do we really know about their capabilities? My government believes it is time to properly assess the human threat." "That would violate our agreement," said Ju-won sharply. "An agreement based on fear," countered Tae-sung. "The Miri do not make decisions based on fear." The council leader raised his hand. "This discussion is not on our agenda. The vote has been taken. The policy stands. All council species will continue to avoid human space." Tae-sung's yellow eyes narrowed. "Of course," he said, bowing slightly. "The Miri respect the council's decisions." But Daeho saw the look in the admiral's eyes. The Miri weren't going to follow the rules, they were planning something. He needed to report this immediately. 6 hours later, Daeho stood in Director Han Seo's office on Earth. The large windows showed the gleaming towers of New Seoul rising into the clear blue sky. "So they voted to continue avoiding us," Han Seo said, looking over the report on his tablet. He was an older man with gray hair and a serious face. "That's good news." "Yes, sir," Daeho agreed. "But I'm concerned about the Miri. Admiral Tae-sung made it clear he doesn't respect the policy. I believe they may be planning to enter human space." Han Seo put down his tablet and looked out the window. "The Council's avoidance policy has been very useful for us. It's given us time to develop our technology and expand our colonies without interference." "Exactly, sir. That's why we've supported it from behind the scenes. Most humans didn't know that Earth had discovered the Galactic Council long before the Council officially discovered Earth. Human stealth ships had been watching alien civilizations for over 50 years. What do we know about the Miri? Hanseo asked. Deho touched his wrist device and a hologram appeared between them. It showed the red-scaled reptilian aliens and data about their civilization. They're militaristic and aggressive. They joined the Council about 30 years ago after developing faster-than-light travel. Their technology is advanced, but they value strength over diplomacy. They've had border conflicts with 3 other Council species. Hanseo studied the hologram. And they don't believe the stories about what happened to the Voltar. No, sir. They think the stories are exaggerated. They're not, Hanseo said quietly. If anything, the stories don't capture how completely we defeated them when they attacked our colonies. Deho nodded. The Council species only saw the aftermath. They never understood how it happened so fast. Hanseo walked to a wall map showing human territory, Earth and its 12 colony worlds spread across 30 star systems. If the Miri do decide to test us, which area do you think they would target? Deho thought for a moment. Probably one of our outer colonies, something they see as vulnerable. Nova Korea would be my guess. It's our newest colony and closest to their territory. I agree, said Hanseo. He touched his communication device. This is Director Hanseo. I want increased surveillance on all Miri military movements, and send a priority message to Colonel Jiwoo on Nova Korea. Tell her to be ready for possible alien contact, not necessarily friendly. He turned back to Deho. We'll hope the Miri respect the Council's decision, but if they don't, Deho finished, they'll learn why the Council avoids humans. Hanseo's face was grim. Yes, Earth has worked hard for peace with alien civilizations. We've hidden our true capabilities to avoid frightening them. But we won't allow any species to threaten our people. Outside the window, the sun was setting over New Seoul, casting long shadows from the tall buildings. Somewhere up there, beyond the blue sky, 27 alien civilizations carefully avoided human space, all except perhaps the Miri. And if the Miri came looking for trouble, they would find it. Deho looked at the stars becoming visible in the darkening sky. They have no idea what they might be starting, do they? No, said Hanseo. They don't. And that's the problem with ignoring warnings. Sometimes you have to learn the hard way. 6 months had passed since the Council meeting. On the colony world of Nova Korea, the morning sun rose over rolling hills and new cities. The colony was only 15 years old, but already home to over 2 million people. Colonel Jiwoo stood at the window of the defense center, watching farmers in the distance tend their fields. She was a tall woman with short black hair and a calm face that hid her sharp mind. Her uniform was simple but neat, with small silver stars on the collar showing her rank. A loud beep from the control room broke the morning quiet. Jiwoo turned, as her second-in-command, Major Sunho, rushed in. Colonel, we have unknown ships entering our space, he said, his voice tense. 7 vessels coming from the direction of the Miri territory. Jiwoo's face did not show her worry as she followed Sunho to the main screen. Show me. The large screen lit up with images of 7 sleek red ships. They moved in a tight formation, clearly military vessels. Jiwoo recognized their design from her briefings about alien species. Miri warships, she said quietly. Just as Director Hanseo warned might happen. Should we activate our full defense grid? Asked Sunho. Jiwoo thought for a moment. Not yet. We don't want to show all our capabilities unless we have to. Start with basic defensive measures only, and open a communication channel. As her team worked, Jiwoo studied the alien ships. They were impressive, about twice the size of standard human vessels with weapons ports clearly visible along their hulls. Channel open, Colonel, said the communications officer. This is Colonel Jiwoo of the Earth colony Nova Korea to approaching vessels, she said clearly. You are entering human territory without permission. Please identify yourselves and state your purpose. They waited. No response came. They're ignoring us, Sunho said, his hand moving toward the weapons control. Wait, Jiwoo ordered. Try again. 3 more attempts brought no reply. Meanwhile, the Miri ships moved closer to the colony. They've begun scanning our settlements and defense installations, reported a young officer at the sensor station. Jiwoo nodded. They're assessing our strength. Or looking for weaknesses, added Sunho. For the next 2 hours, the Miri ships moved in a careful pattern around the colony. They kept their distance but continued their scans. Then, without warning, one of the smaller ships broke formation and moved toward an unmanned research station in orbit around the planet. Colonel, they're powering up weapons, Sunho called out. Before Jiwoo could respond, the Miri ship fired at the research station. The small facility exploded in a brief flash of light. The command center fell silent. That was an unmanned station, Jiwoo said, her voice cold. But it's still an act of war. She turned to her team. Activate level 2 defenses, keep the advanced systems hidden, but make it clear we can protect ourselves. Across the colony, hidden defense platforms rose from underground bunkers and buildings. These were the older, less advanced weapons, the ones Earth didn't mind aliens seeing. Send a message, Jiwoo ordered. Tell them that was an unprovoked attack on our property. Demand they withdraw from our space immediately. The message was sent. This time, they got a response. A red-scaled face appeared on the main screen. Yellow, eyes with vertical pupils looked out at them. I am Admiral Tae-sung of the Miri Defense Force. We are conducting military exercises and testing the capabilities of neighboring species. Your research station was a valid target for these exercises. Jiwoo stepped forward. Admiral Tae-sung, you have violated human territory and destroyed our property. This is not acceptable. You will withdraw your forces now, or we will defend ourselves. Tae-sung's mouth curved in what might have been a smile, showing sharp teeth. Defend yourselves with what? Our scans show minimal military capability. You have a few basic defense platforms and small ships. The stories about human power must be greatly exaggerated. Admiral, I won't warn you again, Jiwoo said firmly. Leave our space. I think not, Colonel. The Miri must know the truth about humans. Are you the threat some believe, or just another weak species hiding behind the Council's protection? Tae-sung leaned closer to the screen. We will find out today. The communication ended. They're moving into attack formation, Sunho reported. All 7 ships are targeting our main settlement. Jiwoo took a deep breath. Send an emergency signal to Earth Command. Tell them we are under attack by Miri forces. She looked at her team. Evacuate civilians to the underground shelters. Activate all level 2 defenses, but keep our true capabilities hidden for now. Across the colony, alarms sounded. People who had trained for this possibility moved quickly to underground bunkers. Defense platforms turned toward the alien ships. In space, the Miri fleet spread out to surround the main settlement, their weapons charged with a red glow. They're firing, shouted Sunho. The Miri ships released a barrage of energy weapons. The shots streaked down toward the colony, only to be stopped by an invisible barrier 100 meters above the buildings. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Tae-sung stared in surprise at his view screen. What happened? He demanded. They have shield technology, his science officer reported, sounding shocked. Our weapons barely damaged it. Impossible, Tae-sung hissed. Our intelligence said humans were still developing shield technology. Fire again, maximum power. The Miri ships fired a second volley, using their strongest weapons. This time, the human shields flickered slightly but held firm. In the defense center, Jiwoo watched calmly. Minor strain on Sector 3 shields, no breaches. Should we return fire? Asked Sunho eagerly. Not yet, Jiwoo replied. Let's see what else they do first. We need to understand their full capabilities before we respond. Admiral Tae-sung was growing angry. If we can't break through from orbit, we'll attack from the ground. He turned to his battle commander. Prepare ground forces. We'll land outside their shield perimeter and attack from there. Soon 20 transport ships launched from the Miri fleet. Each carried 50 soldiers in heavy battle armor. They descended toward the open plains outside the main settlement. Jiwoo watched them on her screen. "Let them land," she said to her surprised officers. "Once they're on the ground, they'll be cut off from their fleet." As the Miri ground forces landed and formed up, they expected an easy march to the human settlement. Instead, they found themselves facing a colony that was far more prepared than they had believed possible. In his command ship, Admiral Tae-sung watched with growing concern. Something didn't feel right. The humans weren't responding as expected. They showed no panic, no desperate attempts to flee or surrender. Instead, Colonel Jiwoo sat calmly in her command center, sending a new message to Earth. "Miri attack underway. Colony defenses holding without difficulty. Ground forces deployed. By enemy. Request permission to demonstrate Level 3 defensive capabilities." The reply came quickly. "Permission granted. Teach them a lesson, but don't reveal everything. Help is on the way, but you won't need it." Jiwoo allowed herself a small smile as she gave her next order. "Prepare to show the Miri why the Council avoids humans. Let's give them a taste of what happened to the Voltar." Admiral Eunji Lee stood on the bridge of her flagship, the EDF Thunderbolt. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for being both brilliant and ruthless in battle. Her gray uniform bore the insignia of Earth's 7th Fleet. "Status. Report," she ordered as her fleet of 15 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Nova Korea system. "All ships present and accounted for, Admiral," reported her first officer. "We are maintaining stealth protocols. The Miri have not detected us." Yoonji nodded. "Good. Keep our distance for now. I want to observe the situation before we intervene." On the main screen, she could see the 7 Miri warships orbiting Nova Korea. Their landing craft had already deployed ground forces. "Open a secure channel to Colonel Jiwoo," Yoonji ordered. Jiwoo's face appeared on a side screen. She looked calm, despite the attack on her colony. "Admiral Lee," Jiwoo greeted her. "Thank you for coming so quickly." "What's your status, Colonel?" "Their orbital bombardment couldn't penetrate our shields. Now they've landed ground forces, about 1,000 troops with heavy weapons. They're advancing toward our main settlement." Yoonji studied the tactical display. "Earth Command wants us to let you handle this if possible. They think it's a good opportunity to teach the Miri a lesson without revealing our full military capabilities." Jiwoo smiled slightly. "I agree. My colonists are eager to show these aliens what happens when you attack humans." This didn't surprise Yoonji. Nova Korea, like many outer colonies, was home to many former military personnel who had chosen to start new lives on the frontier. Nearly 40% of the adult colonists had military training. "Very well," said Yoonji. "My fleet will remain cloaked but ready to intervene if needed. Show them what Nova Korea can do, Colonel." "With pleasure, Admiral." On the ground, the Miri troops advanced across the open plains toward the human settlement. They moved in tight formation, their red battle armor gleaming in the morning sun. Their weapons were held ready, and their officers barked orders with confidence. Commander Kyorin, leader of the Miri ground forces, felt proud. This would be an easy victory. The humans had only their shields, and now his forces were inside the shield perimeter. Soon they would crush these primitive beings and bring glory to the Miri. "First squad, move up to that ridge," he ordered. "Second squad, prepare to—" A series of explosions suddenly erupted along his front line. 10 Miri soldiers disappeared in flashes of light. "What was that?" Kyorin demanded. "Sir, there are devices buried in the ground," reported his sensor officer. "Some kind of mines, but we can't detect them until we're right on top of them." "Spread out," Kyorin ordered. "Use scanners at maximum power." His troops moved more cautiously now, but as they spread out, new threats appeared. Small drones rose from the tall grass, firing precision energy beams at the Miri soldiers. The beams somehow penetrated the Miri armor as if it weren't there. "Return. Fire!" Kyorin shouted, but the drones were fast and hard to hit. They darted and weaved, striking and then vanishing back into the grass. In just 5 minutes, Kyorin had lost 30 soldiers. He hadn't expected this level of resistance from a colony. In the defense center, Jiwoo watched the battle with her officers. Automated defense system working at 60% capacity, reported Major Sunho. The Miri are taking heavy casualties. Where are their air units? Jiwoo asked. They should have deployed them by now. As if answering her question, 20 Miri fighter craft suddenly descended from their ships. They flew in attack formation toward the settlement. There they are, said Sunho. Should we activate the anti-air batteries? Jiwoo shook her head. No, let's try something else. She pressed a button on her console. All militia units, this is Colonel Jiwoo. Air threat incoming. Implement Plan Delta. Across the colony, ordinary-looking farm buildings and homes suddenly opened to reveal hidden weapons. Colonists who had been farmers and teachers just hours ago now manned these defenses with practiced skill. When the Miri fighters came within range, they were met with a coordinated barrage from dozens of positions. 7 fighters exploded immediately. The others broke formation in surprise. On his flagship, Admiral Tae-sung watched in growing anger and confusion. How is this possible? He demanded. They're just colonists. Where did these defenses come from? Sir, his intelligence officer said nervously. It appears we underestimated the humans' military capabilities. Their colonists seem to be trained fighters, and they have weapons we didn't detect in our scans. Impossible. Our scans are the best in the galaxy. Tae-sung slammed his fist on his chair. Send in the second wave of ground troops, and prepare our main weapons. We'll destroy their primary power station from orbit. Without power, their defenses will fail. Admiral Yoonji watched all this from her cloaked ship at the edge of the system. She smiled as she saw the Miri's growing frustration. Her communications officer turned to her. Admiral, we're receiving a message from Earth Command. Yoonji read the message on her private screen. It was brief. Continue observation. Intervene only if colony faces critical danger. Let them learn. Acknowledged, Yoonji replied. She looked back at the main screen, where the Miri ships were repositioning for another attack. They still haven't figured it out, have they? Figured what out, Admiral? Asked her first officer. That they're not fighting Earth's military? Yoonji said. They're just fighting colonists, farmers and teachers and engineers who happen to be very well prepared. On the ground, the battle was not going well for the Miri. Their second wave of troops had landed, but they were making little progress. The humans seemed to know exactly where they would attack and always had defenses ready. Commander Kyo-rin had lost over 300 soldiers and had gained only 2 kilometers of ground. At this rate, it would take days to reach the settlement, and his troops would be exhausted by then. Sir, called his communications officer, Admiral Tae-sung is ordering us to press the attack. He says the orbital bombardment will begin in 20 minutes, targeting their power station. Kyo-rin nodded grimly. Without power, the human defenses would weaken. But something bothered him. The humans were fighting too well, too confidently. It was almost as if, Sir, his sensor officer suddenly shouted, I'm detecting energy signatures all around us. They weren't there a moment ago. Kyo-rin looked up to see hundreds of hidden bunkers opening in the hills around his forces. Each contained weapons far more advanced than what the humans had used. So far, in the defense center, Jiwoo received a new message from Earth Command. Miri flagship preparing to target main power station. Permission granted to activate level 3 defenses. Finally, said Jiwoo. She pressed a series of controls on her console. Activate defense grid, level 3. Target all Miri ships in orbit. Across the colony, hidden weapon platforms emerged from underground bunkers. They were sleek and clearly of advanced design. They aimed upward at the Miri ships and began to glow with power. On his flagship, Admiral Tae-sung was preparing to fire at the colony's power station when his sensor officer cried out, Admiral, energy readings from the surface, massive weapons, powering up. Tae-sung barely had time to look at the sensor display before the first human weapons fired. Brilliant beams of energy shot upward from the colony, far more powerful than anything the Miri had expected from humans. The smallest Miri ship was hit first. Its shields failed instantly and the ship broke apart. Tae-sung stared in shock at his view screen. Impossible. As a second Miri ship exploded, Ji Woo sent a message to Admiral Yunji. Phase 1 complete. Ready for Phase 2. Admiral Yunji smiled and gave a simple command to her fleet. Decloak. What do you mean there are more ships? Admiral Tae-sung's yellow eyes widened as he stared at his sensor officer. Where did they come from? They were already here, Admiral, stammered the officer. They must have been using some kind of cloaking technology we couldn't detect. On the main screen of the Miri flagship, 15 human warships suddenly appeared, surrounding the remaining 5 Miri vessels. The human ships were sleek and dark, with no visible weapons. But Tae-sung had just seen what human weapons could do. How many of our ground forces remain? Tae-sung demanded. His tactical officer checked the displays. Less than 600, sir. They're pinned down by the colony's defenses. Tae-sung hissed in frustration. This was not how the mission was supposed to go. The humans were just colonists, not warriors. Their technology was supposed to be inferior. Everything the Miri had learned about humans suggested this would be an easy conquest. Yet here he was, with 2 ships destroyed, his ground forces being decimated, and now surrounded by a human fleet that had appeared from nowhere. Admiral, said his communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it on screen, Tae-sung ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. The screen changed to show a small human female in a gray uniform. Her face was calm, showing neither anger nor fear. This is Admiral Yoon-ji Lee of the Earth Defense Force. 7th Fleet, she said. Your ships have attacked a human colony without provocation. Your forces have 20 minutes to surrender and withdraw, or we will disable your vessels and take your crews prisoner. Tae-sung drew himself up to his full height. This is Admiral Tae-sung of the Miri Defense Force. We will not surrender. The Miri do not bow to threats. Admiral Yoon-ji's expression didn't change. This is not a threat, Admiral. It is a statement of fact. Your sensors have now had time to analyze our ships. You know you cannot win this battle. In fact, Tae-sung's sensors were telling him things he could hardly believe. The human ships were more advanced than anything the Miri possessed. Their power readings were off the charts, and their hull material was something Miri science couldn't even identify. But the Miri did not surrender. It was not their way. We will fight to the last ship, Tae-sung declared. Admiral Yoon-ji sighed. Very well. Colonel Ji Woo, you may proceed with the demonstration. The screen split to show Colonel Ji Woo in her command center on the planet below. With pleasure, Admiral. On the ground, Commander Kyorin and his remaining troops were surrounded. The human colonists had them trapped in a valley, with those strange, hard-to-detect weapons aimed at them from all sides. Sir, what are your orders? Asked his second-in-command. We can't advance and retreat is cut off. Before Kyorin could answer, a new voice came over their communication system. It was Colonel Ji Woo. Commander Kyorin, this is Colonel Ji Woo of Nova Korea Colony Defense. Your forces are surrounded, and your fleet is outmatched. I am activating a special shield now. Please observe. A shimmering field of energy suddenly appeared surrounding the Miri forces in a dome about 1 kilometer wide. It wasn't attacking them, just containing them. This is a demonstration, Ji Woo continued. The shield now surrounding your forces is what we call a phase barrier. Your weapons cannot penetrate it from the inside. Your communications cannot reach beyond it except through channels we allow. You are, in effect, our prisoners. Kyorin couldn't believe it. He fired his personal weapon at the shield. The energy blast simply disappeared into the barrier without effect. Now, said Ji Woo, please direct your attention to the sky. In orbit, Admiral Tae-sung was preparing to fight when his tactical officer shouted in alarm. Admiral, the human ships, they're doing something. The human vessels had begun to emit a strange field of energy. As Tae-sung watched, the field expanded toward his ships. When it reached the nearest Miri vessel, the ship's systems began to shut down. What's happening? Tae-sung demanded. It's some kind of energy-dampening field, reported his science officer, voice shaking. It's disabling our systems without damaging them. One by one, the Miri ships went dark, their engines and weapons shutting down. Only life support and communications remained active. On his flagship, Tae-sung watched helplessly as the field approached. Fire all weapons, he ordered in desperation. The Miri flagship launched its most powerful weapons at the human fleet. The energy beams struck the lead human ship and did nothing. They didn't even cause the shields to flicker. Then the dampening field reached Tai Sung's ship, and everything went dark. Admiral Yunji's face reappeared on the limited emergency screen of Tai Sung's flagship. Admiral Tai Sung, your ships are now under our control. Your ground forces are contained. This confrontation is over. Tai Sung's scales had paled to a light orange, a sign of extreme stress in Miri physiology. What are you? We are humans, Yunji said simply. The species your council has wisely chosen to avoid for the past 20 years. But your technology, it's impossible. Our intelligence said, your intelligence was wrong, interrupted Yunji. Or perhaps we wanted it to be wrong. A new face appeared on the screen beside Yunji. It was Captain Daeho Kim. Taesung recognized him from somewhere but couldn't place him. Admiral Taesung, said Daeho. We've been monitoring your council for decades. We know everything about your species and many others. We've kept our true capabilities hidden because we prefer peace to conflict. Taesung suddenly realized where he had seen this human before. You were at the council meeting, but that's impossible. No non-council species can enter the chambers. Daeho smiled slightly. As you're learning, humans can do many impossible things. Admiral Yunji spoke again. There's something else you should know, Admiral. The forces you faced on the ground, those weren't our military, those were colonists, farmers, teachers, engineers, civilians with basic defense training. Taesung couldn't process what he was hearing. Civilians, but they defeated our best troops. And one more thing, Yunji continued. The weapons that disabled your ships and trapped your ground forces, those are defensive systems only. You haven't seen our actual military capabilities yet. The implications hit Taesung like a physical blow. If these were just colonists with defensive weapons, what could the human military really do? On the surface, Commander Kyorin had been listening to the same conversation through the communication link Jiwoo had allowed. He sank to his knees in the dirt. We never had a chance, he said to his officers. The council was right to avoid humans. Colonel Jiwoo approached the edge of the phase barrier that contained the Miri forces. She was alone and carried no visible weapon. Commander, she called out. Soon, representatives from your council will arrive. They'll want to know what happened here. When they ask, remember this. What you experienced today was restraint. We could have destroyed your entire fleet and all your ground forces in the first minutes of your attack. We chose not to. Kyorin looked up at the human colonel. Why? Why show mercy to those who attacked you? Because humans value life, even the lives of those who threaten us. Jiwoo's expression was stern but not cruel. The council avoids us not because we are monsters, but because they understand something your people failed to grasp. We will always defend our own, but we prefer not to destroy others unless absolutely necessary. As if to emphasize her point, medical drones suddenly appeared above the Miri troops, dropping supplies and treatment kits for the wounded. Your injured will be cared for, said Jiwoo. And when the council representatives arrive, you will all be returned to your people, alive, to tell your story. In orbit, Admiral Taesung's flagship was being towed by the human vessels, heading for a stable position where they would wait for the council delegation. Taesung stared out his viewport at the human ships. They had been here all along, watching, waiting. The humans had known the Miri were coming, they had prepared, and they had won without even showing their true strength. Now he understood why the council had voted to avoid human space. Why Elder Juwon had mentioned the incident with such gravity. Why 27 advanced civilizations chose to give humans a wide berth. It wasn't fear, it was wisdom. 3 days after the battle, a new ship arrived in the Nova Korea system. It was larger than any of the Miri vessels had been, with elegant curves and symbols of the Galactic Council emblazoned on its hull. Inside were representatives from 12 council species, including Elder Juwon. Captain Daeho Kim, now serving as Earth's diplomatic liaison, stood in the docking bay of the Earth space station that orbited Nova Korea. Behind him stood an honor guard of 6 Earth Defense Force officers in formal uniforms. The airlock doors opened and the council representatives entered. They were a diverse group, some with multiple limbs, some floating rather than walking, some small, others towering. Elder Ju Wan led them, his gray skin looking paler than when Daeho had seen him at the council meeting. Captain Kim, Elder. Ju Wan greeted him with a slight bow. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I thank you for agreeing to this meeting. The pleasure is ours, Elder, Daeho replied. Earth has long hoped for open dialogue with the Council. As they walked from the docking bay to the conference room, Daeho noticed how the Council representatives glanced nervously at the station around them. They were seeing human technology up close for the first time, or at least, the first time. They knew they were seeing it. In the conference room, large windows offered a view of the planet below, and the remains of the Miri fleet, still being held by Earthships. Before we begin, said Elder Ju Wan once everyone was seated, I must express the Council's deep regret for the Miri attack on your colony. It was a direct violation of our policy. Daeho nodded. We understand that the Miri acted alone. Earth does not hold the Council responsible. A reptilian alien with blue scales, the representative from a species called the Voloth, spoke next. What we don't understand is how you were so prepared. The Miri attack should have been a surprise, yet your response was remarkable. Daeho smiled slightly. Perhaps it's time for some honesty between us. He pressed a button on the table, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed images of cloaked human ships monitoring Council worlds, records of intercepted communications, and detailed data on each Council species. Earth has been aware of the Galactic Council for over 50 years, Daeho said calmly. We've monitored your activities, studied your technologies, and prepared accordingly. The Council representatives looked shocked. A small, insect-like alien chittered rapidly in alarm. You've been spying on us? Demanded the Voloth representative. We prefer to call it maintaining awareness, Daeho replied. Given that several Council species considered attacking Earth before the Voltar incident, it seemed prudent. Elder Ju Wan sighed deeply. So you know about all of that as well? We do, said Daeho. We know that 20 years ago the Voltar attacked one of our early colonies much as the Miri did recently. We know that after the Voltar fleet was destroyed, the Council voted to avoid human space. And we know that you've been debating what to do about humans ever since. The representatives exchanged uncomfortable glances. A new voice joined the conversation. Perhaps it's time to stop avoiding and start engaging. Admiral Yoonji Lee had entered the room. She walked to stand beside Daeho. Admiral Lee. Daeho introduced her to the Council, commander of our 7th Fleet which responded to the Miri attack. Elder Ju Wan studied her with interest. Your ships have capabilities we've never seen before. The way you disabled the Miri fleet without destroying it, remarkable. Humans prefer not to destroy when we can avoid it, Yoonji said. But make no mistake, we are capable of defending ourselves against any threat. Yes, said the Voloth representative bitterly. The Voltar learned that lesson at great cost. Daeho brought the discussion back to the matter at hand. What happens now with the Miri? They attacked a human colony without provocation. Elder Ju Wan straightened in his chair. The Council has already voted. The Miri will face severe sanctions. Their military will be reduced and they must pay reparations to your colony. That seems fair, Daeho agreed. And Admiral Taesung? He has been stripped of his rank and will face trial according to Miri law, said Ju Wan. His actions endangered not just the Miri but potentially all Council species. A tall, plant-like being with blue leaves spoke next. There is one more thing the Council has voted upon. We would like to formally invite humans to join the Galactic Council. The room fell silent. This was unexpected, even to Daeho, who prided himself on anticipating diplomatic developments. That is a generous offer, he said carefully. But why now? Your council has avoided us for 20 years. Elder Ju Wan looked directly at Daeho. Because avoidance is no longer possible or wise. You've shown that you already know about us, that your technology may equal or exceed our own, and, most importantly, that despite having great power, you choose to use it with restraint. We will need to discuss this offer with Earth's leadership, Deho said. It represents a significant change in our relationship. Of course, agreed Juwan. We expected nothing less. 1 week later, Deho sat in Director Han Seo's office in New Seoul. Colonel Ji-woo, now promoted to general, sat beside him. They had just finished reviewing the council's offer. So, Han Seo said, looking out at the city skyline. After all these years of watching from the shadows, we're being invited to take a seat at the table. It's what we've been working toward, said Deho. A chance to engage with other species, as equals, not as potential targets. Ji-woo nodded. The Miri did us a favor, in a way. Their attack forced our hand, but it also showed the council what kind of people we are. And what kind of people are we, General? Asked Han Seo, turning from the window. The kind who could have destroyed the Miri fleet in minutes but chose not to, Ji-woo replied. The kind who treated enemy wounded and returned prisoners unharmed. The kind who used power as a shield, not a sword. Han Seo smiled slightly. Let's hope the council remembers that. Not all humans are as restrained as the Nova Korea colonists. They'll remember, Deho assured him. The Miri certainly will. And word spreads quickly among the council species. Han Seo walked to a cabinet and took out a bottle of traditional rice wine and 3 small cups. He poured one for each of them. To the future, he said, raising his cup. Earth is about to enter a new era. Our isolation is ending. Other species are reaching out to us, some for trade, some for cultural exchange, some for protection. They're afraid of us, Ji-woo observed. Some are, agreed Han Seo. But fear can become respect, and respect can become friendship given time. And those who don't learn? Asked Deho. Han Seo's expression grew serious. The Miri learned their lesson. If others make the same mistake, they'll learn it too. He raised his cup higher. To humanity's future among the stars, may others continue to underestimate us, but never again test our resolve. They drank together as the sun set over New Seoul, casting the city in golden light. On a desk nearby, a tablet displayed reports of new diplomatic contacts from 15 council species, all suddenly eager to establish relations with Earth. In the Nova Korea system, the last of the Miri prisoners were being transported to the Yindaizhub council ship for return to their homeworld. Many would carry stories of human power, but also human mercy. The council representatives were preparing to return as well, carrying Earth's provisional acceptance of their invitation, and in deep space beyond the edge of human territory, other alien species received news of what had happened. Some reacted with fear, some with interest, some with relief that humans were finally emerging from isolation. But all of them understood one important truth. The council had been right to avoid humans all these years. Not because humans were monsters to be feared, but because they were a power to be respected. The Miri had learned this lesson the hard way. Others would be wise to learn from their mistake.